Right after that, then we had the tons of messages coming in from FIDA. The AG issued a statement. We had from NCC. We had from Occupy Ghana. We had from Child Rights. So many of them.
Yes. Yes, I mean, it's important that these messages come out, these press releases, to clarify the situation. Because if you look at that section in the Children's Act, remember this act is set within a certain framework, and we even have policies adopted to give flesh to the act. For example, the family welfare law, the child and family welfare policy, not law. If you read it together, you understand that there are people who are expected to take care of children's protection and rights. Families, parents, traditional authorities, religious authorities, all of these people, everyone, in fact, the child is in the center of the discussion around its survival, protection, development, participation. The child is in the center. So even the child himself or herself, if they begin to think, are supposed to be able to voice out their own views about what they think is also good for them. And that is why we adopted the framework that we call the welfare principle of the best interest of the child. We didn't just say best interest, because there's a place where sometimes people look as though they're pushing rights to a nonsensical degree. In Ghana, we adopted the welfare principle, meaning that the child, by reason of their vulnerability, needs the protection of all of us, including even the child, if they're able to reason, and the best interest, which adopts the language of rights protection. It was a very careful marriage. And that is why when you come to the law itself and it talks about refusal for betrothal or marriage, you must read that whole portion together. You cannot separate them and say betrothal, marriage are two different things when it comes to the child who cannot consent to either betrothal or marriage. That is the import of that section. Betrothal is, in our language, we call it, in the Twi language, esiwa. Esiwa is a pledge of marriage. It is that it's so close to marriage that a child who cannot consent to marriage cannot be consenting to betrothal. We assume that they are not in that position because of their vulnerability to even consent to betrothal. So whether it is betrothal or a subject of a dowry transaction or marriage, there is a clear section. You can't do this. And if you do it, these are the sanctions. So I'm surprised that, a few legal, he's not the only one, have been trying to make distinctions between betrothal and marriage and whether you have to force somebody before you can consent to betrothal. It doesn't matter at all. Whether she's 16, whatever, she cannot be betrothed. And remember also that within this frame of the law are the whole gamut of protections that we as adults, especially parents, you have to protect your child from negligence, from discrimination, from violence, from abuse, from exploitation, from physical and moral hazards. That is, for me, the most interesting part of it. This is found in, I think, Section 6 of the Children's Act. Physical and moral hazards. I know the one who drafted this legislation, and I can bet you I am in her head right now. She knew exactly why she put all those words together. And it's time for us to understand the import of the law in terms of protecting children from a broader framework of all society. And that is why betrothal and marriage cannot be different for the children.
Let's get to it. Are you ready to state that from the facts you know so far, from the confirmation from the Gadangbe group and also the council, and from they themselves in their press conference and all, she is not 18. She has been betrothed. A crime has occasioned.
All three of us are lawyers, and we know what the rule is.
She will be prosecuting as Attorney General. So we can excuse her. You will not be prosecuting.
Oh, that's fine. But we still want to go by the rule that it has to be proven. At least you have to take a case to the courts. But for me, it gets even more interesting. If she's 18, assuming without admitting, as Kweku Baku used to say, if she's 18,
he's watching.
you know that there's compulsion of marriage. Can we say that this child has agreed to be married to a 63-year-old man or a deity? That would also come into question, assuming she was 18. Because there's a crime of compulsion of marriage. You can't force anybody to be married against their will. And then we would have to check that. Secondly, the deity issue becomes more interesting for me because we also do have section 314A of our Criminal Offences Act that talks about customary servitude that was actually promulgated to take the issue of ritual and customary servitude into consideration. And we know where that came from. Trokosi, the bride of the gods. Now, in that particular custom, a child, almost always a girl, goes in to serve for something she has not committed. She is married to the gods, not the human being. But it's the human being who puts her under labor, who has sex with her, who has children with her, who is able to say, go here, and she goes, come here, and she comes. So I think even pushing that issue of marriage to a deity complicates the matter. I mean, we can do the analysis ad nauseum, okay? Now, even though this may not be a trokosi issue per se, there are similarities if you are pushing the argument of deity. So we need to tread very, very cautiously. Besides, the law doesn't deal with spiritual matters.
Correct.
Okay? We are sitting here, we know, I'm a theologian, I know I am spirit, soul, and body. But it's my body you're seeing and interacting with. And so the law deals with certainties. And so the law won't deal with
the metaphysical.
Because
Because the judges who are supposed to deal with this, they are not spirits.
They are not spirits.
They don't have
exactly. You
divination
may call them
powers.
My Lord temporal for all you
Right.
can. They still do not have those divination powers. And
so they look
on.
for the hard facts.
Exactly. So we are dealing with a human being. That child is not spirit. And we have in this country customs, in certain parts of the country where, a child may be born with a certain defective deformity, and they actually call them spirit children, and they can go and leave them in forest, so they die. Now, if you do that, and we get you, we have to prosecute you. Because you may think all you want that that's a spirit child, but we will not allow you to destroy that physical being.
I asked
that's
about
the
first threshold of what may be a fact that a crime has been committed in terms of a breach of the Children's Act,
right,
which is also punishable according to the law, as the Attorney General issued a statement and told us about. You could go to jail for a year. Or pay a fine of, is it
or both?
A fine of a total of, is it 3,000 or so?
Yes.
Now,
you have to look at
the chieftaincy minister, when he was saying that the priority of the state was to secure the child so that her interests, welfare will be protected, continue to emphasize that they wanted to be sure that she doesn't get violated sexually. Which would mean another crime.
Yes.
That's correct.
Correct? Yes, defilement.
Defilement.
Yes, 7 to 25 years.
Good. So if it is established that there has been sexual encounters.
Oh my goodness. Well, then that gets worse and worse, and I'm hoping it's not that. You know why I'm saying that? I'm really hoping it's not that. I mean, I was in the prosecutions department of the Ministry of Justice for almost 10 years, and I always had a thing about prosecution. I'm not a hard lawyer, So even when I'm prosecuting somebody, I'm thinking the way the defense should be thinking, because sometimes you can see, oh, what did we do? And probably that's why I'm...
Ignorance of the law is no excuse.
It's no excuse, yes, but you can see that human side come out. So I have always believed in the carrot and stick approach, especially when we are dealing with these issues around culture, customary rights, and all of those things. because there's still a lot of education and sensitization. And believe you me, some of the frustration we've had in this work is the fact that it has always appeared as though NGOs primarily do this work. We fold up and sleep when there's no money. As for the state, it is only when this happens that it starts running all over. And that's why I was interested in the interministerial committee that was set up. I said, if we suddenly discover another one here, another one there, are we going to set up interministerial committees for all these things if they come up? We should do what we need to do professionally.
Use one case as an example. That's what they are doing.
Yes, but
They're setting up a high-powered ministerial committee.
What I'm saying about the carrot and stick approach, okay? You would realize that, for example, the DOFSU unit was set up in such a way that it will respond to some issues that are sensitive and yet also criminal. And so it not only looks at the law, it also looks at victim support. It looks at families. It does many things. So if you are not a well-trained DOFSU police officer, for example, you can mess up a little. But if you're well-trained, and that's why I'm thinking about a similar thing that occurred and has occurred a few times. Like this case, I'm not saying religiously, it's the same group, or no. But in professional policing, by that specialized unit, the head withdrew the child. When she withdrew the child to a place of safety, then she went after the one she was also 12. I'm saying this because I was involved. And then she went after the one who wanted to marry her and the whole group of family from the both sides who were arranging this thing. It was her little brother who went and told the police that they're going to marry off my little sister. I don't want it to happen. He ran from school to the police and reported. Immediately, the child was taken away, withdrawn, put into a shelter. She went after the people, and it's interesting how it happened. She began to educate them on the law. Now you can imagine, a whole community also followed. And she said, if you're going to cause any ruckus, I'm going to have you all arrested and prosecuted. And then she explained the law to such an extent to the people. The mother said, I was married off at 12. I mean, look at me now. Nothing has happened to me and so on. It's our practice. And she said, you can believe all you want, practice all you want. It's against the law. By the time she had thoroughly educated them, the people realized if we don't stop this, we are all going to jail. She also realized that she needed to keep the child away for a while to ensure that the danger is completely past and the family is ready to take her back. That's exactly what happened. Years later, I meet this little girl and she tells me, Auntie, I'm in second year medical school. And I say, this is professional policing from the idea in which DOFSU was set up. So it's not always about like a
rush to prosecute.
Yes, rush to prosecute. It's important because the law is the law, and we must bring in this aspect that applies the carrot and the stick.
Right. Let me bring in Mercy Labi. Religious and traditional leaders. What role should they be playing?
Okay, so very quickly, for the child, the practical things is what the government is doing now. Keeping them in a safe place, providing social, psychosocial care and all of that, even medical doctor and all of that.
How long should that be?
It should be for as long as she's still a child, because of the stigma, because of the psychological impacts on her, because of what might even happen to her parents, the threats and all of that. So the state must still stay on course. The state must also ensure that the social welfare plan for care is in place, because sometimes there are gaps. I mean, we live in this system. We know that sometimes our social welfare lacks the resources and all of that. So they should make sure social welfare has the resources and also has a plan that will stay on course until the girl is over 18 years old and can live in a community, with her parents, with freedom. Okay. Now, when it comes to the government, I think I go with what Deputy Attorney General is saying in terms of resensitization. But you can't do it outside of your own frameworks. We have forgotten that we have set in place several frameworks. Sometimes the treaties are crossed, the I's are dotted, and we simply forget about it. If we go back to those frameworks and look at how we are supposed to set in place community systems of protection, they are not difficult. Sometimes it just needs somebody doing their work, putting their eyes on the ball, and ensuring that these things are happening. Sometimes they'll tell you it's the money. Sometimes it's not the money at all. It's somebody just making sure that they are doing what they said they'll do. The district assemblies are the ones supposed to protect children within their jurisdictions. How much does the district assembly, the MCs, know about the protective frameworks that we have? We have to check all of those things so we can catch the issues right at the community level and take them through the systems that we have. It is just the same people around the children who will help us to protect the children, and we need to put them in the frameworks that we already have. That's also part of our frustration. And so I am appealing to my sister that we should go back to the frameworks. We have one in the domestic violence implementation policy. We have one in the child law and family welfare policy. Let's look at the frameworks and begin to work on those frameworks for protection. Traditional authorities and religious, please, leadership. Yeah. That's all I can say. We won't expect our leaders to do the things that they don't expect their followers not to do. Whether you're a traditional leader, a religious leader, whatever political leader, we're expecting you not to perpetrate these acts against the most vulnerable of our society. Right. So please, if it's about education, get educated. If it is about whatever it is, but don't be caught on the wrong side of the law. You won't be a model.
Thank you very much. Tell us about the Shelter Treasury Fund that the ACT Foundation has been up to. Tell us just briefly about it. You know, and I'm projecting this. Look at the contact numbers there. And please grab your phone and donate. They are doing a beautiful job for vulnerable mothers, women, and children who need a home so they can gain their sanity and be useful to our society. So that's the ACT Foundation, the Shelter Treasury Fund. The bank accounts are there. You can contribute to that. And also there's the MTN number. That one I invite you right now. Pick your phone, and send them something so they can take care of our sisters who are there. It's 024 3777 773 0243 777 777 Yes.
Samson, you said it all. We've been at this for 25 years. I can't describe to you the number of cases we've seen or the kinds of cases we've had to handle in this country. And that is even just the tip of the iceberg. Right. Because how many can we do at a time and all of that? And so this is like a legacy project. We want it to continue running. We need the support of government, of civil society personalities, of people like, I think I'm coming after you, a bit of your salary. You know, we need to keep this running. For a fact, all the state institutions use our services to protect children, to protect women. But we don't receive any funding from any of those spaces. So thank you so much for this.
You're welcome.